introduced, but we did not introduce our sign language interpreter. So, audience, please meet our sign language interpreter. What's your name, please? Vivian. Please, a round of applause for Vivian. Today, she's serving as a bridge for us. Thank you very much, Vivian. Yes. So, we're going to continue. But before we continue, I have a question for the audience. By a show of hand, or please raise up your hand, how many of us here are familiar with the Nigeria Disability Act of 2018? How many of us here are aware that there's a Disability Act? Okay, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if you are here and you are not aware that there's a policy, there's a government policy, there's a Government Disability Act of 2018, if you are not aware, can I see your hand up? If you are not aware. Okay. So what it looks like to me, or what it looks like, is that there's an urgent need for awareness, because people in the community do not even know that there's a policy, a guideline, a federal guideline for us, for them. So yes, it's great that we're having this conversation. So after this conversation, it would be fantastic if our audience can make the effort to review, look for a summary of the act, so that you would be aware of what your rights are according to Nigeria's policy. So we're going to continue our conversation. And our next question is to Mr. Dare Dairo. In 2 minutes, please, what specific structural changes are necessary in the budgeting templates of ministries, departments, and agencies to ensure PWDs are represented and funded accordingly? So in our MDA's budgets at the beginning of the fiscal year, what specific structural changes need to be implemented in this budget to ensure that PWDs are adequately funded and included? Over to you.
Thank you very much. I think that question brings me again to really appreciate budgets for being concerned with this issue of inclusion, because the reality is, until mainstream organizations, civil society particularly, start taking particular interest in inclusion, disability, we ain't getting nowhere, because disability, if you leave it to person with disability alone, they would leave it will always remain a charity thing, because people affected mostly by chronic poverty are among persons with disability. And it's not because disabilities and poverty is in the DNA of persons with disability. So 2 things quickly. Number 1 is budgets. Let me give you a scenario. As of 2023, when I was leaving office, the Lagos State budget for LASODA is 500 million. Right? Now, as even that 500 million, there was call of reducing this, because budget performance was barely 40%. Right? Was barely 40% due to lack of approvals. Now, so let's say today, as at last 2025, this year's budget, these are publicly available information, right? 2025 budget for Lagos State. Lagos State is the highest budget in Nigeria at 3.37 trillion naira, right? So let's just assume that between 2023 and today, they've doubled what it was when I was in office, 2023. So that's 1 billion, right? Okay, now let's look at it. What percentage of the overall budget is 1 billion? That is 0.00267%. So for a people that are 15% of the population, government expense on them is 0.00267. Now, let's put it in context. Which state has the lowest budget in Nigeria? That's Yobe, right? That's 332 billion, right? So now let's look at an hypothetical situation, which is leading me to where I'm going here. Let's say Yobe is spending 1% of its budget on people with disability. Three 332 billion, right? That's 320 million, right? Now, if Yobe, the least, right, will have been spending 320 million, if it was spending 1% of its population, can you now relate that to? Don't forget, Yobe State budget is less than 10% of Lagos State's budget. Yobe State's budget is less than 10% of Lagos State budget. But if Yobe State were spending 1% of its budget on disability, which is 320 something, it would still be more than half of what Lagos State, that is more than 10 times of Yobe, is spending on people with disability. So that shows a gross margin. When you talk about put your money where your mouth is, right? Because Lagos State has gone far in terms of disability inclusion, but when you really start looking at it, so what I would want to propose is, can budget take it as an advocacy point for government at all levels to dedicate just 1% of their budget to disability? Just 1%. So imagine what 1% of Lagos budget, that's 33 point something billion. So with that, government can afford to put elevators in every public buildings and do the needful in terms of health access and all of that, So, and I think it's a very modest request, 1%. So if we can collectively starting from budget, make it an advocacy point, 1% of government's budget every year for person with disability. I think that would be a good place to start.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dairo. So you would be able to tell that Mr. Dairo's perspective is coming from the perspective of an insider, considering the offices he has held, representing PWDs. So you can tell that he's breaking down the facts into numbers for us today so that we can truly understand what we need to move the needle forward. Thank you very much, Mr. Dari. So our next question is for Madam Busola. How can planning and financing of a capital project integrate comprehensive accessibility audits to guarantee they meet the needs of PWDs? I'll take that again. How can the planning and financing of capital projects integrate comprehensive accessibility audits to guarantee they meet the needs of PWDs? So let's question down a bit. I'm a facilities manager. That's one of my 9-to-5 jobs. And one of the things that I do is to make sure that any building that I am managing is accessible. There must be a ramp for wheelchair. There must be an elevator on multiple floors. The bathrooms must have a railing, one particular toilet dedicated for PWDs. So all these things are things that facilities managers are supposed to do. But as a facility manager, you would realize that when you take over a building, these facilities are not there already. So you would have to be the one to start telling them that, okay, this part of the staircase, let's put cement, let's make it slopey so that it will be accessible. Or this bathroom, this toilet, let's leave this one aside and tag it inclusive bathroom and put hand railings. So it's always an afterthought. So now this question is asking us that in the planning and financing of capital projects, how do we integrate accessibility audits to guarantee they meet the needs of PWDs? Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much for that question. I'd like to say that just like you have rightly noted, it is important that we conduct accessibility audits, because that is what would enable us know what are the needs of persons with disability. Um, Needs differs according to the kind of disability you have. What is accessibility to a person, a visually impaired person, is not accessibility to um, um, somebody that has that is impaired, that cannot hear well. So disability and accessibility differs, and when we involve them at the level of conception, we say, okay, we want to have this capital project. This is what we are doing. There is need for us to, because just like you said, that is what many people do, especially building professionals. They think that they know they will just after, it's an afterthought, and after they are done with whatever they are doing, they just notice that there is need to maybe make some changes and adjustment, and they go ahead. But how about them knowing the needs of this person? What do you consider as accessibility? What do you need? What will make you function well? And they implement that and integrate that into whatever programs they are designing. So I want to say, just like Mr. Darin said, that I think we need to start institutionalizing um, accessibility audits, because that is the way to go, so that everybody knows that this is standard practice. It's not something that it's an afterthought when you are done doing whatever you want to do, then you now think, oh, we can always do this. So it has to be a requirement, both for building professionals. Let them know. I'm aware that there is a national building code in Nigeria, even though it has some things that we think still need some adjustment. However, this is something that we can work with as a building professional. So at the level of, before we even give them a capital project, we are asking them, you need to know the needs of these people, so that you are integrating it to whatever project you are implementing. And also, it is not enough that before you make it a project requirement, there is also to make sure that they, so at the level of implementation, take for instance, you are building roads or you're building hospitals. It is not enough that you tell them that this is a requirement. It is also necessary that you follow up whatever they are doing. Make sure they are compliant. They say they are going to build a ramp. They say the doorway is supposed to be wide. Are they actually doing those things? So we need to follow up. And even after the project has ended, maybe they say the project is completed, then we need to bring our people in, because just like we said, nothing for us without us. Let them try it out. Is it actually what we want? If there are adjustments at that level, it's very easy for you to get them to adjust. But when the project is already completed, in fact, as far as I'm concerned, I think it's a waste of money. When you do all of that and you now start readjusting, making some remodeling, it's a waste of money. How about having those things at the conception level and make sure they follow through at the completion, and even put it at the level of maintenance, because we don't have maintenance culture in Nigeria. I'm sorry to say. I'm sorry to say that. So we should be very, very intentional about it. That is the way we will ensure that persons with disabilities are well captured and they don't miss out of any capital project that we are embarking on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Busola. We hear you loud and clear. The most striking thing for me out of what you said is nothing for us without us. Thank you very much for that. And you emphasized the importance of making inclusion a requirement in our infrastructure building, private companies, public buildings, having building regulations that mandates inclusion in construction. And then also compliance, like how LabStar comes to check if your cement is properly mixed and your roof is properly done. They should also check if your building is adequately is inclusive. Thank you very much, Madam Busola. I'll now ask Mr. Oluwatosin a question. Okay.
No, no, go ahead, please. I'll attend to you.
Okay. So what successful Thank you very much. Please, a round of applause for our new interpreter, sign language interpreter. What's your name, please? Anoluwa. Thank you very much for being here. Okay. So I'll now ask Mr. Oluwatosin our next question. What successful lobbying strategy has been employed in other countries that could be adapted to Nigeria to ensure a legally binding allocation for programs in national budget? So, just to add a little context, um, while it is unfortunate that we have to lobby for basic things, and that cuts across different issues in the country. You have to lobby for inclusion, you have to lobby for women representation, you have to lobby for children to go to good schools, you have to lobby for everything before they are implemented, things that are supposed to be basic needs. So while we face that unfortunate reality, kindly shed light on how other countries have successfully been able to lobby to get an inclusive allocation in the national budget.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'll start from where you stopped on the issue of lobbying. Politically, lobbying is actually it is part of the system. So, but unfortunately, there are some part of lobbying in Nigerian settings that it shouldn't even be a discourse. Inclusion shouldn't be a discourse. Education, health shouldn't be a discourse because we know that we are far behind. But if I will quickly move into scenarios or countries that have actually adopted, strategies like this for lobbying for inclusion around PWD, specifically for Kenya and South Africa, they have a framework within their fiscal budgets that mandates that every MDA, ministry, department, and agencies, every legislator should ensure that while they are preparing their budget, a segment of the expenditure, particularly capital expenditure, should be dedicated to PWD services. So the issues where we are talking about infrastructural development and it's going to be an afterthought doesn't happen there. You're building even the architectural design, the architecture from the architectural design, it is there. So for some organizations now, you will see that even the ones that are provided with afterthoughts, they are there. You would know that it is a detachment between the architectural design and what was built there. But in countries like Kenya and South Africa, it is there. As you're preparing your budget, there's a segment for PWD. It is not debatable. In Nigeria, I don't know why it is hard, and also I think it's a matter of representation. When I was checking the NC, the commission in charge for, yeah, it was not clear that the secretary, the head of the commission, is somebody that is PWD. I'm not sure about that. Is hearing impaired? Constitutionally, is not there. But the person that's even representing that agency over the years, I don't know who's there presently, but the administration of such agencies should be left in the hands of PWD persons. No, no, no. Of course, it's a conversation.
So sometimes they leave these ambiguities.
Okay.
It's still
Intentionally, right?
intentionally because of it's part. We're still talking from a tokenistic mindset. Let's give them something. You understand? But the last person that was there was hearing impaired. He's deaf.
Okay.
You understand? So, but we need to be more emphatic about how it is. Though that has its own issues too.
Okay. So, also, he was talking about the issues that are there. Political will also is very, very important. How did they even come about the person that is there? Was he voted for the choice of the person governing such body? So, because if I want to go to the next points I would speak on is going to be around a coalition. He mentioned how budget, is now coming into the space. He wants us to work. I think I had a brief conversation about issues that we could even a partnership within coalition in Lagos, so they could have a proper voice, a proper representation. It seems like the legislators that are supposed to be in charge of the M&A frameworks for these things are not even doing anything. I think it's time that NGOs that have bigger voices take over. In countries like, that same South Africa and Kenya, they have a committee. The same way we have a appropriation committee, we have finance committee, we have committees for some necessary and unnecessary things. It's important that within the legislature there should be coalitions and coalitions outside the government and coalitions within committees within the government to work together and of course make progress.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. This further emphasizes what, or this contributes to what Madam Busola said. Nothing for us without us. Yes. Inclusion of PWDs in creating structures and policies for PWDs. Okay. Thank you very much. So before we move to the next set of questions, I have a question for the audience because you're a part of this conversation. We're in this together, you know. United we are, divided we fall. So let's talk to you. Um, in your organization where you work, do you have any disability inclusive policy, procedure, or accommodation? Currently, where you work, even if you are a business owner, do you have any policy, or does your company have any policy, any disability inclusive policy, procedures, or accommodation? Please, I'd like to see your hands up if you have any of those. Okay, lovely. I see one hand. Um, okay, I see two hands. Oh, fantastic. Okay, okay, three. Okay, lovely. Okay, well, let's see how many people here. One, you don't even know whether they have the policy or they actually do not have the policy. I would like to see your hand up. If you don't know whether they have or if they have, where you work or businesses you own. Oh, audience, please participate. Let's see you. Okay. Yes. Okay, you don't have. Okay, okay, okay. Please raise up your hand so that we can count you. Okay. One, two. You said you have. Yes, I don't have. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. Okay, I can count eight out of the audience. So that's eight versus three. So what that tells us is that there is a gap in the implementation of the policy. And also, the truth is, as people, as Nigerians, as citizens, we also have an obligation to make things work. It would be great if every one of us here today takes out the time to learn a thing or two about inclusive policies in workplace and then have conversations with our bosses, or if you are the boss, you too, please be conscious and be sensitive, and not just sensible to the situation, and have an inclusive environment. We will quickly go to the closing conversation because we are almost out of time. So, sir, I would like to ask you first. If we were to prioritize one investment area that will cause the highest national impact for PWDs, what would it be? one investment area that would have the highest impact for PWDs in Nigeria, what would it be? In 1 minute, sir.
Thank you very much. One investment area, I'll still go back to that first point I make. Because imagine if Lagos State is putting 33.7 billion in disability. Sure, they'll take that MDA serious, So when government start putting their money, and this advocacy point is fair, we're asking for just 1%. Any state, all the states, just give 1% to persons with disability. The moment they start doing that, they'll start taking it serious. If I may be Oliver Twist, another thing we could after that we'll now work for it, because it keys into implementation and monitoring. When I came into office, one of the things I first championed is the idea of one data Lagos. One data Lagos. So that for everything and anything you do, there's one data source. And it has every other thing, just like the social security number in the US. It's no rocket science. So that was the whole idea. But you see, a lot of people was like, it's like I was delving into other people's job. And the thing is, like, during the COVID-19, when government wanted to give palliative, this was COVID, they needed to give palliative, and by the structure and everything, the institution of it, the disability is a component. So they can't overlook it like they overlook everything. So they needed to be disability specific. Now the problem now is people that can't come out. So you need to get these things to them. So how do you do it? You need their address. The problem to merge. So people spend days sleeping in the office to get that done. So, but if we had done this one data Lagos thing, that would have been seamless. So, at the end of the day, I was like practically hitting my head against the wall. So, at the point, the last time people just sent me their consultant. And when the man came, I gave him a whole presentation about what I'm talking about. And the man was happy. He said, look, this thing is already there.
Yes, sir.
So, it's just a plug and play. So now,
Yes.
that exists.
Yes, sir.
So we need to start engaging from that systemic angle, right? Until we do that, we may not be getting anywhere.
Thank you.
Let's put their money where their mouth is.
Yes.
Data,
Yes.
and that's thinking outside of the box. The economics of disability.
Thank
you
you
very
much. Thank you very much. Data, and then 1% of the budget for PWDs. Thank you very much. Please, apologies. If you can do it in 30 seconds, that would be fantastic. One investment.
Okay. For me, I think I will want us to make accessibility audits a standard practice, if possible backed with law, such that any program or project that we are implementing, we mainstream disability inclusion into whatever program or project we are doing. That is it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Inclusion, especially in infrastructure, make it a standard. Thank you. Over to you, Mr. Tosin. One thing, one investment that would bring the highest national impact for PWDs.
I'm more of a policy person.
Okay.
Constitutional provision. Then within the fiscal framework of Nigeria, a certain percentage, of course he has mentioned, a certain percentage of the budget should be allocated to PWD. Not to spark a little anger in us, but if you look at the allocations to the commission over the last 3 years, and you now look at the per capita analysis, you'll be angry. Imagine that maybe like 40 billion, I think, provided for 35 million people, but per capita analysis is about 16 naira per PWD. So it does not make any sense to me. So it is important that we look for somewhere within our fiscal framework, mandate that percentage of our allocations to go to PWD.
Thank you very much. From the policy point of view, emphasizing what Mr. Dari said, we need to have allocations that are realistic to the population of PWDs we have in Nigeria. thank you very much to all our panelists. Before we round off, let's understand if our audience understood what we've been talking about. And just to be sure that we are not here to just talk and then go home, I would like to assess the audience. I would like to assess the room. How many of us here are willing to commit to one personal or organizational action after today? Whether it is improving accessibility, advocating for rights, hiring more inclusively, or supporting a PWD-led business. Please, with a show of hand, how many people here have listened and are more committed to being inclusive? Please, let's not make this another conversation. Let it resonate, let it impact you, and let it touch somewhere in your heart that causes you to actually take action. Um, United we are, united we stand, divided we fall, and together we can move the needle in the right direction for PWD inclusion in Nigeria. PWD can be anybody, is everybody. So creating an inclusive policy, inclusive environment for PWDs is doing something for every single one of us. So today, I charge you, our audience and panelists, to keep doing what you're doing, and please keep doing better. Thank you very much to our panelists. Thank you to our audience, and thank you everyone for having me. My name is Amira Hassan, and we've come to the end of this panel session. Thank you very much. Let's move closer to him. Yeah. Sorry, Ma. I'm sorry. Ma, want to take picture? Okay. Yes, please join. You are part of the. Thank you very much, everyone. Bye bye. Okay, come and have your advice on spoiling my experience.
Didn't actually spoil it. We added to it.
Well, one, two, three,
On this panel. Okay.
three.
Okay.
Three.
Three. Yeah. Okay. I would get it. How are you doing?
I'm good.
I was introduced to you by Dawako. Yeah, pleasure.
I hope that was an interesting session. I hope the last session. And we're going to the next session right now. Um, are you speaking?
I just finished the panel now.
Oh, okay, please. This gift is. We just want to. Yes. So we want to take the next session. Yeah, just hand it over. All right. We're moving on to the next session. Just so that you're aware, the session going on there is on employment, on entrepreneurship, customer service. And in case you want to join that session, you can just find a chair on that session or switch your headset to that session and then just join them. All right. So this is the health session, and our conversation today. And our conversation today is on building inclusive and resilient healthcare for all. Now, I know that all of us at one point or the other, you would have had to access or use an healthcare service. It could be general healthcare or it could be mental healthcare service. And today we're bringing speakers that will that are working in these spaces, in the HMO sector, in the mental health sector, and there's an organization that works for persons with disability in terms of health, right? And we're coming together to have this conversation so that we can see how we can make mental health or health access generally accessible, more accessible. And I'm going to bring up my speakers and the moderator to come up on stage, and then we can start the conversation. So I'm going to read their profiles. So I just want them to be seated before I read the profile. Just to be seated before I read the profile. I'll give you this so that you can hear what the person says. Yeah. So you can, I think you should sit there so the rest of them would sit. The first table. The first table. While we're waiting for them to sit so that I can read their profile, I just also again want to apologize for how packed the room is. We had more people than we planned for, which sometimes it's a good thing because it shows that the conversation on inclusion is something that everybody now wants to be a part of. I know that a few years ago when we have gatherings like this, okay, do you have, okay, you can have this. Welcome, sir. One more headset for. All right. Oh, okay. And I know that a few years ago, when we're having conversations about inclusion, we only have few people. In fact, we only have persons with disabilities in those conversations. But today, we have a room full of both persons with disabilities and persons without disability, all because we are coming to understanding that inclusion matters. Any area where inclusion is a terms of our healthcare, right? Both general healthcare and mental health care, because we all have to access that. I'm going to read the profile of my speakers today, and as you hear them, let's put our hands together, let's appreciate them, and just celebrate them, and then we can get the conversation started. I'm going to start with our moderator for this conversation today. Oluwatosin Shola is an international development professional, humanitarian, and an entrepreneur. Tosin is passionate about providing social protection for vulnerable groups, even as she advocates for social justice, inclusive development, and bridged inequality gaps. A non-profit, Together for Needs initiative has reached over 12,000 persons, providing varied support and empowerment for disadvantaged groups. Tosin has over 16 years experience working in areas of project management, human resources, women's rights, leadership development, business development, and non-profit management. She holds a master's degree from the University of Birmingham, where she obtained MSc in International Development and Bachelor of Science in International Relations from Covenant University. She equally holds professional certifications in human resources from the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management and Certification in Project Management for APMG United Kingdom. Tosin is equally the co-founder and COO of Lafiami, where she strategically heads all operations, partnerships, administrative processes, and this role is a significant social impact initiative as she drives the company's mission to connect millions of Nigerians to affordable healthcare. And let me just say one thing about that. What Lafiami is doing is to make sure that healthcare is very affordable to every Nigerian, especially the vulnerable population. Please, let's put our hands together for Tosin Ishola. And sitting next to her, Honorable Kingsley, dynamic and dedicated professional with a strong foundation in finance, general insurance, and health insurance. With a passion for innovation and excellence, Kingsley has demonstrated exceptional skills in leadership, management, strategy, risk assessment, marketing, analytics, revenue generation, and retention. Kingsley holds a BSc degree from the University of Port Harcourt. He has attended several trainings and holds several certifications from various prestigious institutions, including the Lagos Business School. He also holds an MBA from Rome Business School and an executive MBA from Valencia International University. Over the past 15 years, Kingsley has amassed significant experience working with various organizations, and he is currently the head sales and marketing at IGEA HMO Limited. Kingsley is a member of Lions Club International, an international charity organization with a mission to improve health and well-being, strengthen communities, and support those in need through humanitarian service and grants that impact lives globally. If you know IGEA, you know that IGEA is everywhere. IGEA is providing healthcare for everyone. So please, let's put our hands together for Honorable Kingsley. Excuse me for a moment. Just a moment. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I would move on to let me just stand beside you more. And our next speaker on this panel is Olubumiti Olugbamila, who is an award-winning SDG 4 advocate, intervention specialist for specific learning disabilities, and a passionate neurodiversity advocate with over 18 years of experience in the education sector. If there's anything you can see with our panel, that the list is 15 years experience. So these are professionals. She's deeply committed to supporting children and young adults with neurodiverse conditions through structured intervention programs, inclusive education, advocacy, and capacity building for educators and families. As the founder and executive director of Dama Place Learning Foundation, She leads a team of dedicated and skilled interventionists implementing impactful programs that support children with additional learning needs, including dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, dyspraxia, ADHD, autism, and Down syndrome across primary and secondary school, including underserved communities. Under her leadership, the foundation has reached over 10,000 educators and parents, fostering inclusive learning environments where every child is seen, valued, and empowered to thrive. Please, let's put our hands together for Olubomiti Olugbamila. And then the next person on my list is Segun Matthew, who is a psychotherapy advocate who has dedicated his journey to understanding the silent pressures people carry and helping them find their way back to clarity and peace. He is the founder of Perception Modifier, where he helps individuals rewrite limiting stories and rediscover the strength they thought they had lost. Through compassionate practice and evidence-based therapy, Segun guides people from emotional overwhelm to emotional balance, from confusion to clarity, from pain to purpose. As director at ADI Lagos, he plays a transformative role in shaping counselors across Africa, equipping them not just with skills, but with heart, empathy, and cultural insight. Segun is a sought-after voice on promoting people's mental health, workplace well-being, resilience, and the realities of navigating pressures in modern society. Above all, Segun Matthew believes deeply that every mind matters, every story can change, and every person has the capacity to heal. His mission is simple: to help people move from pressure to peace and to remind them that transformation is both possible and within reach. And if there's anything you want to agree with, apart from our physical health being accessible, it's important for us to take care of our mental health. Please, let's put our hands together for Segun Matthew. So I'm going to leave you in the hands of Tosin Ishola as she takes session. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon. Can everyone hear me? Okay, it's so different, like new technology. So we're going to keep catching up. But I'm so happy to be hosting this very important panel conversation. And our topic is building inclusive and resilient healthcare access for all. And having Mr. Segun from the mental health space, Mrs. Olubumi that sits on SDG 4, ensuring inclusion, even in education, and she's doing such an amazing work. Please, let's put our hands together for Mrs. Olubumi one more time. We are getting more aware about neurodiverse issues that children and even adults have to go through. And when we come in contact with people with special needs, we now learn to give them more grace, but we give you kudos for the work that you're doing in that space. I also have Mr. Kingsley here, who sits as head of sales at IGEA HMO. And this panel is hosted by Lafiami, and IGEA is one of our partners. So they are helping us provide affordable health insurance to millions of Nigerians. So please, clap for my... You have to clap for him. If you don't clap for him, yeah, okay. We're doing better now. Okay, just a quick overview. In Nigeria, many individuals, especially within marginalized group, face a lot of exclusion, when it comes to quality healthcare. Persons with disabilities, people from low-income families, and now people with mental health needs, face a lot of exclusion. And we're hoping that with the conversation that we would have today, we would come up with solutions that can lead to policy actions. I'm hoping that we can come up with something that if we left this place and we had 18 months to implement, there will be change. So we just don't want to talk for talking's sake. We want to address the key issues. So to start, I want to ask everyone the same question around what healthcare access means to you in your sector and what you consider the barriers to healthcare, especially for the groups that you work with. For Mr. Segun, for example, in the mental health space, when we say healthcare, and access, what does that really mean? And what are the barriers that you have noticed? I'll go and start with you, Mr. Segun.
Okay, thank you very
You're
much.
welcome.
And good afternoon to everyone. I hope this has been an inspiring and, engagement. Yeah, if you say healthcare access, I think is the one that recognizes diversity that removes barrier, that adapt care to each individual need, and where people have access to a care support that respect dignity, that is fair, and that is also inclusive, and where people can have access to compassionate and competent mental health support. I think for in the mental health space, I think that's for just for a brief reason. That would be what I would call an inclusive healthcare access. When we want to talk about the barriers, I did mention that one of it is to remove barriers. And I think, like it's been said, and I think which are probably as a lot of the speakers have mentioned today, some of the major barriers are stigmatization, discrimination, cultural beliefs, lack of adequate workforce, lack of professionals that in fact the professionals are even very, very, very minimal. They are low. And also facilities, lack of adequate facilities, and even facility not even having accessible infrastructure for people that are facing one kind of vulnerability or the other, or disability or the other. And also cost is a big one as well, because a lot of the health is not cheap. It's out of pocket. And also a lot of the health insurance do not even have coverage for people that are living with disability. And also even the public funding is a problem. And also we have what we call weak implementation of policies. A lot of the time in Nigeria there are policies, it's just implementation. The leaders don't have the will to really implement this thing. They just have the document on the shelf or in the system. Weak implementation policy. And then lastly, I would say socio-economic hardship, because things are really hard for people. And the marginalized people are even more affected. And I think, let me probably just stop there. These are the few things limitations, barrier that I think a lot of people are facing, much more the people living with disability.
Thank you so much. That's amazing. Miss Olubomi, can you help us with the same question? What healthcare access means to you and what the barriers are?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So I would say inclusive healthcare simply means the access to, equitable health services and free of bias and free of discrimination and being able to have access and information that is required for you to be able to, to understand that I am different. And can I also add that there is no such thing as normal. So it depends on your view and also your perception, and also which is shaped by your experiences. So that is what inclusive healthcare simply means. And can I just round up by saying that also the way we view things matter a lot, because if we extend grace to one another, we can actually be more tolerant and then be kind. You would not see anybody as a less of a person than you are. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
All right. Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, so when you say inclusive healthcare for all, when you use all, it means no discrimination, no segregation for all, right? The healthcare has to give easy access, right? Number two, quality. Number three, affordability. If you read about charters on universal health coverage, right, that is what it says: health insurance for all. But what are the challenges we have in Nigeria here? I mean, the number one thing anybody will tell you is cost. Is healthcare cheap? No. What is even the government doing? So even the government are supposed to promulgate policies that will even make this more affordable. They are not. The private man that goes to open a hospital wants to make profits, right? By the time he opens, okay, I'm trying not to call brands. By the time he opens one big hospital on Lekki, how many persons can even access those hospitals, right? So yes, so there's a universal coverage for healthcare, and there's these barriers that we've all identified here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I like that one thing that everyone does allude to is that affordability has to be addressed. And we see this play out not only in the health sector, even in housing. When you talk about housing, they don't build the house, but when they build it, it's 25 million and it's supposed to be low-cost housing. And you're like, for who? Who is going to afford that? So affordability is an issue, and I'm hoping that we will drive other conversations that will help us say, how do we move beyond that, because it has come to stay. These are issues that cannot go away. So to Mr. Kingsley, my first question is really, how can HMOs better serve low-income communities and persons with disabilities, and how is IGEA working to improve access to affordable and quality care?
All right. So for HMOs, we all work on the principles of health insurance. And what is health insurance? Driving a pool. We gather this pool. We get money. So we say, okay, we have 100 persons here. 2 persons go to the hospital. We use draw from this pool and give to these 2 persons, right? And when you even go abroad, health insurance is what they say everybody has to have, because if you want to even go to private hospitals, even in there, you can't even afford it. But by the time you have a working insurance system, I mean, in the UK you have the NHS. In Nigeria, we're supposed to have the National Health Insurance Authority. Well, we know how it is. Even the NHIL plans, how are they even working? So for us in Hygeia, what we try to do is, I mean, no matter what it is, we try to make our plans very, very affordable, right? Just like you said, we have partners like Lafiami, right, to customize these plans. So, okay, these partners even take these plans, even though we know we have high-brow clients, but the truth is, those ones, yes, they can afford, they can pay. But what about the people on the street? What about the market woman on the road? What about the vulcanizer? What about the woman that goes every day that cannot even afford these big hospitals? So for us, we try to do affordable plans, low plan, and still try to maintain that quality. So even while we're doing those low cost plans, quality has to be maintained. Quality has to be maintained. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I was sitting with someone last week, and she was saying to me how she's on one of our Lafiami plans, and she just went to the hospital recently, did a lot of tests and scan and cervical, and this plan probably costs her. We have plans as low as 12,000 naira per annum. But this was maybe a 20,000 naira plan or something. But she did so much that she was like, I hope people are not going to tell me to pay out of pocket. But that's how much relief, companies like IGEA are working, to make sure that that barrier is reduced. I'll move to Mrs. Olubumi. And my question is really around the barriers faced by persons with disabilities and the ones that are most easy to solve. We have digital, financial, attitudinal, barriers. Do you have any ideas as to how some of these barriers can be, solved, especially when it has to do with healthcare and access?
Thank you for that question. So, as I'm seated here, I'm speaking as a parent of a neurodiverse child or young adult, and I'm also speaking as a teacher, and I'm also speaking as an intervention specialist. So, look at me as 3 in 1. So, one of the barriers which I feel as a parent is in healthcare, we do not have care plans for children or young adults who have neurodiverse conditions. For example, the ASD, that's autism, which is mostly known by people. We do not also have care plans that allow access to health for children or young adults who have dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, ADHD, and all of this. So the barriers are a lot. If you walk into any general hospital, even if you walk into any private hospital, I can beat my chest to say that you would find just very few people, maybe just pediatricians, that know about neurodiversity. So if you do not know about you do not know neurodiversity, you do not have the required knowledge or information, how then do you know what to do? So if there is enlightenment and awareness and training for staff of HMOs, for staff of general hospitals, health staff and all of that, even PHC, the ones that are very close to the community people, that awareness and training would help everyone to know, to say that, okay, we have people who fall under PWDs, that's persons with disabilities, but these are invisible disabilities. So that way, when they need information to know who to see, even though it's not medical, we can have, like a data that will help us to correct that. Even if it's just an help desk for information to see that there are organizations or there are centers who provide these services, we can, create like a link and we bridge that gap. So it is important that they are trained, and then that removes the barrier. So the access to be able to not stigmatize, because there are something that even we have individuals, when parents go to hospitals, doctors are not even very patient to attend to someone who have sensory issues. Just like we are using headphones here to be able to, cut the barrier for the noise in other sessions. some people cannot even take that noise, and then so you find them trying to block their ears. The light that we are seated here and we are very comfortable, some people cannot sit down and be under that same light. I'm holding a gaze with you because I can do that, but there are people who cannot do that, and then they see it as I don't think I have time for this. So if we are able to correct all of that with training, it will help a whole lot of people to be able to understand that we have people who are not just there for medical, intervention, but other interventions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Two things are standing out from what she's saying. She keeps talking about being compassionate, right? And then she's talking about training, because sometimes you can have a good product, a good service, a good policy, like Mr. Shegun said. But if people don't understand it or cannot use it, then it just does not work. It is not effective. So I'm going to Mr. Shegun, and the question is quite similar, but it's really about how we can integrate mental health into primary health care and health insurance. And I ask this because, unlike people with neurodivergent issues, mental health is not, on the face sometimes, but how can HMOs or even the government in terms of policy begin to include healthcare, mental health into primary healthcare, health insurance? How would this look like?
Okay, it's so very disheartening. I came from a clinical background. I used to be a psychiatric, a mental health psychiatric in your city, Birmingham.
Oh,
Yeah, I trained in Birmingham and Coventry. So, and I remember we used to have there was one of the units I worked in Birmingham and Solihull Mental Health Foundation, this thing. And that unit, it was a psychiatric setting for people with deaf and dumb psychiatric unit. And because I did some work there, and I would imagine, and all the staff that, in fact, they offered me a deputy manager role in that place, but because I used just to cover shift there. But it's so amazing where, they have a psychiatric system that they even have a unit for deaf and dumb people that are suffering, because their own dynamics is different, isn't it? Their complexity is different, and their need is different. That's what I talked about, adaptive healthcare system where it's inclusive and it take into cognizance each individual need. So what are some of the things that can happen? Is that one, I think the primary health system is probably what a lot of people will have access to. And let me also remind us in this room, majority of people living with disability, they live in a rural area. And the primary health care centers, they are their first call. So I would imagine that, or I will recommend that the staff, the nurses and the doctor, they can be trained in the common mental health issues, where they can probably treat and manage them, except the matter the matter escalates, it deteriorates. Secondly, they can help even embed counseling in the healthcare, in the primary healthcare system, where some people, they just need to be listened to, they just need to be heard, and when they train people in the primary health system, or where they even put some counselors there to attend to their basic need. And also professionals, people need to be trained in mental health, in mental health issue. And because a lot of people need, because there's a lot of stigmatization and discrimination because of misconception. So there's a limited awareness about what mental health is and what mental health is not. And like we have in Africa, the first diagnosis, when people see mental health, the first thing that most people think is that it's spiritual. So we need to really go beyond that, so that we can, because these are what is causing stigmatization and discrimination. This misconception about what mental health is and what mental health is not. And people need to be trained, and also they need to have facility that is easily accessible. Facilities where a lot of mental most of the mental health facilities in Nigeria, they don't even have they don't even have ramp to access them. They don't even have wheelchair friendly spaces. They don't even have they don't have elevators to even support people that suffer one disability or the other. So I think they need to make mental health facility even more accessible, because that's what we showed is inclusivity involved, in short.
Thank you so much, Mr. Shegun. He's raised very, very important, points, especially when it comes to setting aside a unit and then people that, are trained to actually, even if it's counseling, sometimes it starts with a conversation, and then even if there's no capacity somewhere, it can always be escalated. I'm sure there are certain things that you go to certain general hospitals in Nigeria for, and they're like, you know what, we're sending you to Bagada General Hospital. That's where the specialist is seated. So we can always start, and I'm sure we're going to get into the practical solutions. But as he was talking, that was a solution that I started to say, how can we even start somewhere? We may not start everywhere, but how can we start somewhere? Moving to Mr. Kingsley. And my second question, okay, Mr. Shegun. My second question to Mr. Kingsley is really how HMOs can collaborate with health tech platforms, government, civil society, community-based organizations to promote inclusive healthcare. So it's really more about collaboration. What would that look like?
Okay, so for technology, I would say for the HMOs. Okay, no, before I even go to this question, I think for us it's a learning process, right? It's a learning process. So just like the different specialties you mentioned, I mean, before everybody just want to go to the hospital, malaria, and come out. People don't even know that there's something called psychiatrists, right? I mean, somebody is having one issue, everybody just say, oh, this is one thing. We just generalize and we use one word. But I think for us in the health industry, we're now trying to be innovative. We're now trying to adapt most of these newer innovations. So let me give an instance. Telemedicine for tech, right? So you don't need to go to the hospital to see or to enter the vehicle, go and queue up. No, you can sit in the comfort of your house, speak to a doctor on the phone, right? Now, outside that, you can also do video calls as well via mobile app. That's what technology has come to play, right? So for us again, we have also done home deliveries. So these days, people don't even need to go to the hospital to pick up drugs. You do your telemedicine service, drugs can even be delivered to you at home. Even for our elderly people, right? We're not being innovative, looking at plans that can say, okay, instead of this elderly man going to the hospital, why not even bring the doctor to the elderly man, right? They will not enlightenment. I mean, no matter what we say, if people are not even enlightened, right? Especially just like what you said, in a rural area, that's why we even have most of these people. We can only do the much we can when it comes to primary health care, because at the moment it belongs to the government. But yes, the government also have their own part to play, right? And we, the private sector, we are everly there to help them do these sensitizations. Go to the community, do community health insurance. Yes, we'll do that. Even there's one way even up on now. So what they are saying is, outside even providing this community health insurance, you come down, you do continuous sensitizations. So people should know that yes, there's something called health insurance. People should know that yes, this primary health center, they can come. People should know that when something is happening or when someone has genotype issues, is not as you say, it's not a one is not yes, it's actually a health need. You actually come. So yes, we are very, very open to collaborate with governments. Government should also make policies. Just like one of the panelists say here, there are so many policies. If you even take the NHI Act, right, there are so many policies. Go to different acts of the National Assembly. There are so many policies, but how many are we even implementing? How many are we even implementing? So we need to have all those sensitizations. Take healthcare sensitizations to the rural areas. They are the ones that need it very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Very fantastic point raised there. To Mrs. Olubumi, I want you to just follow up to the conversation Mr. Kingsley just had about at rural level. I feel like sometimes learning of neurodivergent issues is very bougie. It seems like it happens to the rich. It's rich people's children that have ADHD, autism, but I know that in slum communities, maybe they've not named it, or they don't even know what it is, or just like Mr. Shegun said, people are perceiving it as madness or spiritual problems. What would that look like? Because it means like we have work to do at the grassroots level. How can we begin to move forward with this inclusion, but from the bottom in the sector that you work and with the category of people that you work with?
Thank you for that question. So I would, in addition to what was said, I think we will still go back to, awareness and advocacy. Because if people are educated to know what neurodiversity is, and neurodiversity is not a disease. It is simply an umbrella term that is used to describe the natural brain variations So being different from you does not make me less of a person. So if we are able to create awareness of what these things are and then be able to name them, it reduces stigma and then reduces discrimination, because with knowledge comes power. So if we are able to train, let's say teachers, because they are usually the ones, we have organizations that we work with at Dama Place that serve the underserved communities, so children who are out of school, and then and they are usually free tuition school. So we hold trainings for these teachers and also their caregivers, for them to be able to know how to spot children who have these conditions and see how they can also help. So with that tools, they are able to see how they manage them, and then they go on to see how they also learn, because we can all be in the same room and what I'm saying might be different from what another person is hearing. So if we are able to train the teachers and the people, the adults who work with the children, it helps us to actually reduce stigmatization. And also early intervention. Early intervention begins with information, because when you have knowledge, you know what you can do with it. And it is something that is intentional. So if I know about neurodiversity, it helps me to be able to say, oh, so this child or these children that have these conditions or these issues, oh, this is why they are struggling. So that way it helps me to be able to know what the next step to do, the next step to take, what actions or what organization can I actually reach to help them identify the specific disability that this child is having, and that way they tailor learning to that child's needs. So I'm speaking as an education person in this space now. So that's usually how it should go, and that's where we bridge the gap and then we move on from there. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that insight. I know we're now racing, with time, and I just wanted to quickly ask Mr. Shego, and then we'll come to the last question. What low-cost or community-based mental health models are working effectively? From your experience, which of those models do you think are working, that are easy?
Okay. Let me, one of our responsibility here is to correct some assumptions. So let me just briefly say something about, just like mental health, a lot of people feels, most people that suffer mental health, there are people that, most of these high-end people, the same thing happen to need neurodiversity issue. See, what happens is that the people that are rich, they have the resources to detect, to diagnose. So in a lot of the people that are living in rural areas, a lot of them live with undiagnosed, undetected, issues that people don't even know. But let me tell you, according to data, these things are higher in a low-cost, rural area, low and medium income environment. So those are the places where we have majority of these people. And there is a statement I make, and this statement is that I say the primary problem is not the major problem. The major problem is usually managing the primary problem. So a lot of the time, why we're talking about this is management problem. Because, people they have already been physically disabled, but the system or the way, the stigma, or the way we are perceiving this thing is even making them more disabled. And that's why it's one of the things, because we don't want people, there's a proverb in Yoruba that say, deity, if you cannot help me, leave me the way you met me. So the system, how we are responding to this, the way we are saying it, is even making them more disabled. And it's really sad where people that are really physically disabled, and they should now be made mentally disabled. And mental, World Organization have shown that the biggest cause of disability is really mental health disability. Because if you have physical disability, your mental capacity you can still achieve a lot. It's just the system that is even making them more disabled. So what are some of the things that can low-cost things that are working, that can work? There's something we call, task shifting or shift tasking, where, like I've mentioned, where the professionals, the practitioners they have in the system, in the primary health care, in the low-cost hospitals, they can be trained in mental health, in understanding basic mental health issue, and giving them some basic training where they can take care of some basic issue under the supervision of a more professional person. One is that I will speak to the HMO as well. I know one particular HMO that send client to our facility. I would encourage the HMO need to take up, making provision for people that suffer mental health issue, that they may need counselors, that they may need therapies, that they may need psychiatry, because I know most HMO in Nigeria do not have provision for psychiatric and mental health. I know because there's one HMO, in fact, we've been doing proposal to some HMO that they can, so that if that is covered through insurance, it will minimize the financial burden on the people that suffer, suffer mental health issues and also have disability. And also, it can also be faith-based and NGO-led approach, where, because a lot of the time, these are the places people go first. So the NGOs, some NGOs are really doing well. They are doing well, but they can do more. The faith-based, the churches, the mosque, and whatever religion your affinity you have, they can start leading these things. And also, lastly, there's something we also call peer support. People that have experienced, that have recovered, they can also offer support to the other people that are, like I said, in problem, people are in different degrees. Some, I would say, some are in nursery school of the problem, some are in secondary school, some even have PhD in that problem. So in whatever, you have people that can support you. And lastly, I think there should be what we call, a very strong mental health awareness. Because if we try to promote mental health, the awareness is there. A lot of this misconception that is causing stigmatization and discrimination about people suffering with mental health issues that also have disability. Some of these things will be coped, and some of these things will be mitigated, and they can be minimized. I think with that few points.
Thank you so much. You've touched on many things, including some of our closing outcomes, because they are now telling us to wrap up. But I wanted us to put our final thoughts, but I want it to be something around, if we had funding for one pilot intervention right now, they've given us money to solve some of the pressing issues, what would that intervention be? Quickly. 1 minute each. Yes.
So for me, because I, as a mental health professional, the major thing I think is a mindset. Psychoeducation, bringing awareness, opening people's eyes, bringing insight, illuminating people to be aware. Because everybody, even the people that are not doing well, it's as a result of they don't have insight. So if they are insightful, if they are illuminated, because people only practice what they are convinced of.
Yes.
So if you try to convince them, persuade them, speak to their heart, possibly they will do better.
Thank you so much. Psychoeducation stands out there. Mrs. Olubumi. Yeah.
So for funding, and I would begin to say that awareness and training.
Training.
So awareness and training. When you are aware and you are trained to solve the problem with which you actually find yourself in that environment, then we move on from that same funding. We quickly go on screening. That's evaluation for young adults and then children that are in primary and secondary school. But we just do like a pilot project to see how. So when we are able to review what we've used that funding to do, we can now request for more and take it on to other schools, and then we just climb up the ladder from there. So if we do awareness and training, then we do screening to be able to identify children who need the support.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Okay, so for me, right, if I have the funds, I will underwrite more. The truth is, healthcare is expensive, but if you use insurance, it becomes cheaper. I mean, just like what you've said, in the past, HMOs don't do mental health anything, right? But for us, Hygia, for instance, I mean, we've added psychiatric benefits into our plans. In the past, HMOs don't do anything congenital, but now on our current plans, you have congenital, right? Congenital abnormalities we cover, of course, up to a certain extent, right? So if I have that fund, if I have funding, I will be able to underwrite more. And another thing that also stands out is the fact that we can customize. So I mean, if Lafiami comes and says, you know what, Hygia, give me a customized plan for so and so kind of people, why not? If I have the funds to underwrite it, why not? Because at the end of the day, yes, the HMOs, even while we're trying to solve this need, there's also that business part of it. So if I have the funding, if I have that funding, I tell you, we the HMOs, Hygia HMO, will underwrite more and add most of these things into the plan to make it affordable and accessible for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Just to wrap up, all of the thoughts, my panelists have talked about psychoeducation, training, awareness, screening and assessment, and I think that's fantastic because you always start with knowing what needs to be solved. And Mr. Kingsley has just talked about underwriting more plans because it's a business for the HMOs and the numbers must make sense. So thank you so much. We're going to take questions now. I think we'll be able to take maybe 3 or 4 questions. I have someone here. So let me take the questions first.
Hello, my name is Emeka Chuksunadi. I'm the founder of Swimming One Day, Sid Africa. And what we basically that in Nigeria, I am the only swim water sea therapist, and we have given over 600 scholarships to children living with disabilities so that their life is not going to be the same anymore, so that they could compete with their international counterparts from other parts of the world that are already getting so much more therapy. So when we talk about mental health, I'm so sad that I'm not here because swimming and water is the only thing that directly impacts their brains. And we have loads of video testimonies. And I'm begging, I've talked to the chairman and I've talked to everybody. I'm trying to get them to play a little video that we have made as an organization that is in collaboration with La Soda, so that people could just have an idea of the miracle that water holds. The power in the water is so much that I don't understand that in Africa we're not tapping into it. I left my life in Europe and I moved here in 2022 and I started this. And I have to tell you, I started it with my money. I gave all these scholarships with my money. My family and friends are supporting, but the need is overwhelming. So when we talk about what water therapy can do, these are my people. Okay. If you look at Solomon has an organization where we have a Deji. Deji cannot see. Deji cannot hear. Deji cannot speak. And Deji started a session with us. He also has a physical challenge. And Deji actually has depression and anxiety. And Deji also has suicidal tendencies and antisocial tendencies. And I have to tell you that if you see the progress Deji has had, in 7 days, Deji is now swimming in the deep end of the pool. Amazing. And Deji, I don't think he's thinking of killing himself anytime soon. Amazing. And this is the power of water. And when we talk in a forum like this, in Nigeria, without talking about water, it kind of saddens my heart. So I hope that we would be able to include this, because it's so important to understand that lives could be changed. And if they would accept and we play that video, if not, you could all go to swimmingoneday.org and check this out, because this is definitely going to change not just the lives of people living with disabilities, but every human being in Nigeria. Because while in Europe and America, swimming is an obligatory course, here in Africa, what they do is that they say, oh, it's just swimming. It's not just swimming. It's not just water. It has a lot of power. So what we're doing is trying to make sure that people understand that it's a vital, educational, health, and safety tool that belongs in all of our homes.
Thank you so much. Well done. You're doing an amazing job. Thank you. Let's put our hands together for him. Can we take the next question, please? Ma, please. Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. I want to appreciate the organizer of this program and the impactful personnel we have here. My name is Mavis Iso, founder Victoria Intellectual Disability Foundation. I want to appreciate Mr. Shegun. It's like you live in the slum too. I operate in the slum, Ijegun, within Ikotun Igondo LCDA. And you really captured everything. And as a mother, my daughter clocked 18th of November. And the journey started when she was 3. She was diagnosed to have autism spectrum disorders. As we speak, she's on wheelchair because we are talking about HMO. I want to say from experience that what our children need is therapies. The parents need counseling. The children need therapy. I started giving based on recommendation because my husband works in Lut for 17 years because we want to curb hyperactivity along the line seizure setting. Today we are battling with pathological fracture. She's now on wheelchair, she can't walk, no talking. So while we are talking about enjoying medical intervention, let's please emphasize more on therapy. I advocate therapy. Once a child is given risperidone, go and write it down. That child in long distance time will start having seizures. And because you want to take care of seizures, so many other things we set in. They don't really need drugs. They need good food. Don't give food with preservative. No to Indomie, no to Semo, Amala and Eba. That God has given us without preservative will be a fantastic thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much and well done. I'll take the last question, please. Can you give him the mic?
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for this wonderful session and panel. I would just like to quickly make some comments from the government perspective. Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's fine. If you want to sit, that's fine.
So I'd just like to make some comments from the government perspective because I see there's a lot of private interaction in the room, but the government has not been included. So that's the first flaw. A lot of times when we have these conversations, we have them outside of circles, and then coming back after we've gone to the communities and seeing a lot of it, and then we now start looking for government. Why is government not governing? All those, sorry.
Yeah.
Hello. Okay. Yeah. And all those other kind of situations that are supposed to happen. And so, to build an inclusive and a resilient system, like the panel topic is saying, we have to involve government in the conversations. You understand? You have to start it from the local level. So, and I always tell people there are 3 tiers of government. There's the local government, there's the state government, there's the federal government. So you need to narrow down what your scope is covering. The mental health panelist said, oh, the local communities and needs. So that's for the local government. And the Federal Ministry of Health recently said they released about 32 billion naira for all the primary health centers within the federation to be renovated. And I can assure you, I've been to a lot of primary health centers and those renovations are actually going on as we speak. And that is an opportunity for you to interact with the government and make your case with the government. We are going ahead to do renovations. Now, you need to create desk spaces for counselors. You need to create desk spaces for therapists. As of when the money is now and when the plan is just about to be set into place and everything, you need to have that interaction with them. Then also, I also discussed that what the state is doing for the people with disabilities on the supply side. My colleague here, Mr. Kingsley, has spoken about what the demand side is. But let me tell you what's happening on the supply side. On the supply side, we've realized that disabilities are care, that they are specialized forms of care. And like the demand side has already said, if you don't have the funds, you can't underwrite those plans. And that's the beautiful thing about government. Though a lot of us in this room know that the Lagos State government this year dedicated about 3 billion naira for people that are vulnerable. And this is a pool of funds that can be tapped by both the private sector and the state government. We just want that partnership and collaboration. You walk up to us and say, oh, I have this segment of people that have been able to discover. How can we make their lives better? And like the woman right here rightly said, a lot of our HMO plans are catered for, let's say, curative and traditional medicine type of cures. Like, oh, do your football count, do your ECR, get these drugs and everything. Meanwhile, what these people need are therapies and the likes and everything, and not necessary. So, for the supply side too, we should start thinking about creating specialized centers for this set of people. We can come together and say, okay, I from your yearly budget, drop 1%. I will drop like 15% from the government, so and create a specialized center that will cater to the supply side. So I'll have supply side centers in each and every local government that can make these interactions possible. Thank you. Those are my
Absolutely.
comments.
Thank you so much. Very important points raised, and collaboration is at the heart of it. One thing that we're promising to do from this session is to take some of the solutions that we've discussed, put it into a paper, and things that we can always use for advocacy purposes. So it's not just going to end here. Even though we don't have a government representative here, the conversations are not dying in this room. We will scale that. We can only take one more question. And now I'm not sure where to throw that question. Mr. Kingsley, do you want to help me? There are like 5 people raising their hands. I don't want to look that way. Who should I give the mic? I should give a female. Okay.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for this wonderful conversation. I work in a mental health setting, the child and adolescent mental health. So we have many professionals. We have the occupational therapist, speech therapist, physiotherapist, and the child psychiatrist, all in the same center. It's at Oshodi,
What's the name of the center? Because someone may
the
be in
Child
this
and
room.
Adolescent Mental Health Center
Okay.
of the Psychiatric Hospital Oshodi. But the issue is we have many caseloads. Like so, from the especially from the middle class and lower socioeconomic status. So parents they are coming in very much. So we are yes, we have Tuesdays and Thursdays are
clinic days.
But the workload is so
Is enormous.
yes, and the professionals
Staffing.
are few.
Yeah, it's always an imbalance.
So I'm looking at maybe we can just collaborate with the HMOs because some parents have the HMOs, but they said so they usually ask if their HMO can cover for therapy, and it doesn't cover for therapy in a private in a government setting. So we are just looking if we can just create more awareness so that the parents can be informed.
Sorry, please, just so before you wrap, what does the cost of this look like? Do you know how much this comes to when someone needs this kind of intervention at your facility? So people pay out of pocket?
Yes, yes.
Is it government funded?
No, they pay.
It's
They pay.
out of pocket?
Yes,
So
they
what's
pay
that?
out of their pockets. So
Is it subsidized? What? Give me a range. What
okay,
does this look like?
The
The cost?
therapy is 6,000 naira. For speech therapy, speech is the most expensive. It covers just 6 sessions. But the physiotherapy
And how much is the speech therapy?
For 10,000 naira. It covers for 6 sessions.
Wow.
Some parents
Cannot
are
afford it, of
yes,
course.
because their children are having like 4 different sessions of therapists, like the physiotherapists. They are doing all the therapists
At the
together.
same
and
time.
They have to get medications that are very expensive.
That's always
so they
what
cannot.
happens.
So, but philanthropists come in and
Support
they
from time to
support
time.
once in a while, but still it's not enough.
It's an ongoing. We would keep.
And because of the fewer staffs,
Yeah.
the appointments list is always long. So you see parents coming just once in 2 months, and which the therapy won't be.
it won't even be
that
effective.
So and they cannot even afford private speech therapists because private speech therapists
That's
is
expensive.
really expensive.
Yeah.
So if some people that
So
are
these are
working in
things
the
we would also include, in our paper for the government, because these are things that only government funding can do, and maybe private sector support and collaboration. Let's take one more question. I didn't want to give you because you're wearing ability.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I'm Mr. Michael by name. So a prolific and a professional American Nigerian sign language instructor. So I want to speak on the building inclusive and ask a question for my when we are saying that, can you hear me?
Yes.
When we are saying that we are building the earth system for the inclusivity, but what about a situation whereby we have a deaf woman that was giving birth in a government maternity, and at the end of the day, because of disability that the husband and wife have as a deaf, do you believe that the doctor later sold the baby because lack of interpreter in that in that health sector?
So
and I know that if there is sign language interpreter in
Sorry.
so if there is sign language interpreter in that health sector, something so how's that the woman did a scan, and in the scan where they did it, not in that government hospital, it showed that there is baby inside that deaf woman. But at the end of the day, because it's in my church, but I was not around, I traveled out of Lagos that time, but the deaf man was able to call the family, but they were unable to show up because it was in the midnight, and they did the cesarean section. So, and that's how they just sell the baby, and they now wrote in the file that it has the woman has a fibroid, and it wasn't like that. So I want to like what this my brother said. He's talking about the government. Government has a very big role to play in this inclusivity. Though as a stakeholder as individual, we also have a big role. One of it is also to promote adequate sign language interpreters for the deaf people. For example, one of my friends from Ghana sent a video to me that a deaf person went to a health clinic, and the deaf was complaining like this, using sign language. He's a congenital deaf person. The person cannot speak, and the doctor cannot understand. The doctor is just looking at this. What's this one saying? And the doctor just write anything that she that any drug,
Oh my
but
God.
the deaf look at the doctor, gesture that this doctor
This
did
no-
not understand what I'm saying. And when he got the drug, the deaf was so scared to take the drug, which also result to
that's
anxiety. So,
crazy.
but if there is intervention of professional sign language interpreter in that sector, all these things will be eradicated. Thank you.
These are very important conversations because this is now not even an issue of an HMO plan or some. These are these are serious issues because this misdiagnosis, these further problems. You know, you can't see someone that you cannot hear. You can't really see them effectively in terms of providing healthcare. But we'll take note of all of this. I want to take a question from this side. I understand that someone is asking, and I don't want to exclude them. Please let me take from this side. Please.
I can't stand up, so I've been raising my hand. Please.
Where?
Me.
Okay,
Please.
if you can, please quickly.
Thank you very much. In support of what the young man just said, I think my name is Rabiat Rabiu, and I'm into the aspect and advocacy. So I think communication is very important because the health professionals need to be retrained. Aside from the training they have out of the secondary or out of their institution, they need to be retrained because there is a lot of things now going on. How are you going to? A lot of people cannot go to the health sector because they've said it's going to take a long process. How are they going to communicate with me? How all this? And for the speaker on mental health, I have a neighbor who has been, let's say, locked up or tied for almost a month or more than because she's having a mental issue. And I think it's not even a thing. The family cannot afford it because even to feed is a whole lot. And this woman, I think to me it happened when she gave birth to the last child, which I knew. And this woman is very hardworking and vibrant, but she has been locked up. Today she might be stable today, and in the next few weeks she'll be shouting, not sleeping at the whole lot. I plead if there can be help. My community is a Keson community along Igondo. Please, this woman are really be tied up and there is no help. Sometimes they just give her sleeping medicine, and this is going to deal with a lot of things. And if you try to talk to them like Moju, you know, it's actually need a intervention from outsider to please assist the woman. Thank you.
So that case sound like somebody suffering postnatal depression. So what I think, you know, lawsuit, they have a center in lawsuit. So one of the things you can do is that person is a vulnerable person. You can get the social worker in Lagos State involved in that matter, and they will take it off from there. Just like Lagos State Ministry of Welfare and Social Justice, whatever. They will, yes.
Yeah, you can always ask him again.
Yes.
After this
So
session.
lawsuit have facilities. They have facility for such presentation. But since because you felt that this is a vulnerable person, so the social worker in Lagos, the Minister of Welfare and Social Justice, they will come in. Yes, and they have them. They have them in the. I think there is a general hospital in Godo. They have social worker. They ask them. They will tell you what to do. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. How can I take his question? Does he need an interpreter, or he would ask directly?
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. I want us to realize one thing about this problem we're discussing. The problem exists now, and now we are trying to find a solution to it. But what are we also doing to prevent this problem going into the future with us? For instance, I went to an hospital recently and I went alone. And the doctor looked at me and was asking me, am I sure I'm really blind? I told him, no, I'm not blind. I'm a deaf blind. He said, really? I said, yes. He said, how come I can blink? I just looked at him. I said, so, he said, am I talking to a medical doctor? He said, yes. And you're asking me how come I can blink? The level of ignorance is far higher than we think. And so I come to the question, as we are trying to solve the problem today, what are we doing to prevent the problem going with us into the future? That is something we need to think about. For instance, when we talk about inclusion begins from planning to delivery. Every step of the way, you're supposed to think of inclusion. And when you're talking of planning with health, it begins with what? All those medical doctors who are still in school.
Yeah.
Right from school, they should
The
be
training.
exposed
Yeah.
to disability awareness.
Yes.
Right
Absolutely.
from the university. For
Absolutely.
them to have that basic knowledge about
Yeah.
disability. So that when they finish, they start practicing, yes, they see a person with disability, they understand immediately.
Amazing.
That is one. Secondly, we need to encourage most of our patients with disabilities in our various clusters. In our organization, we did a research. That was 2 years ago. And in that research, 70% of patients with disabilities said if they are not feeling fine, they would rather find other means to treat themselves than go to the hospital. Because of the attitude of the doctor, because of the high cost, because of the way everywhere is not accessible and all that. But now, keeping away from the problem does not help us to solve it. We have to face that problem, face it the right way, and act for our right.
Absolutely.
But staying away from it will not help us to solve the issue.
Absolutely.
Those are the two issues I like
Thank
to
you
raise.
so much. Those are very valid points raised. I like that he said that, even training for our medical doctors, it's not when they graduate that we started. Yeah, it has to be embedded in their curriculum, from school. I'm going to take one last question, but I'm also hoping that Mr. Lekon and the entire Project Enable team are really, really taking note of the very salient points, because that's what Project Enable does, providing inclusion, even digital inclusion. These are valid points that must be raised. He said something that was important. It's not about the problem. What about the future? What are we doing to prevent the problem from happening? If not, we'll just keep coming year after year, having this conversation and nothing really happening. Please let me take the last question. Him? Okay. Can you give us your question in 30? Let him just go ahead. Go ahead with your own question in 30 seconds. Yes. Yeah, go ahead and speak.
Mind my communication. I'm deaf.
Okay.
But I'll try my possible to speak as clearly as possible.
Okay.
All right. Firstly, I'm a all right. Firstly, I want to point out some of the challenges I'm facing here. All right. You see, this conference is very good. I'm happy that the stakeholders organized this. It's a welcome development. And I want them to be organizing this kind of conference from time to time, not only once in a year. All right. You see, for deaf people especially, let me start with them. This kind of conference, there should be a special multimedia projector or CD. Captions, where those deaf people that don't understand sign language can just read from the blackboard. Because I am using an app, and at the same time, network issue.
Oh.
It's making it not flowing very well. Okay. You understand? So I want them to take note of that. Then
So you used an hearing aid for this?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm hearing everything, but not
Okay.
all. Then at the same time, most of the speakers, they are speaking too fast.
Sorry about that.
They forget that there are deaf people here.
Oh.
You understand? So we want them to ensure that they make this place very comfortable for them. Not only this place, other conferences.
Okay.
Now I want to talk about the job market now.
Okay.
There-
The mic. Yeah. Give me that.
So about 2 months ago, I went to a tech institute at Yaba to register for a digital marketing course. But to my utter surprise, they told me that they don't have special assistance for deaf people. I was stupefied. And I saw them that in developed nations, almost all the schools there, they have special attention for deaf people. Deaf people are also humans. They have the right to education. They have the right to go for healthcare. So therefore, they must provide all the enabling environment for them. They must provide all the necessary assistance for them to be able to read. go for education if they don't take education course? How will they survive? How will they be useful to the society? So I took note of that, and I've been looking for the stakeholders in the disability industry sector to air my complaints to. But I'm happy that I'm here to do that. So now, in that kind of situation, I want the government, especially the Senate, I want the senators to pass it into law that every institute, organization, supermarket, any business should be ready to assist deaf people. If there are staff there who don't understand sign language interpretation, they should at least get a pen and paper and write for them. I mean, make them feel very special. Don't just discriminate them. You understand?
Thank you so
Yes.
much. Thank
So
you
do
so
we have,
much.
lastly, do we have any minister of disability affairs in this country?
I'm not aware of that,
Okay.
except we elect that one
Okay.
today.
Please, I want the stakeholders to push it. There should be a special minister for disability
Project
affairs,
Enable is
where they
hearing
can
you.
take care of all the welfare, all the problems disability persons are facing in this country. They should help them to solve all those problems. Thank you.
At Abuja. Thank you so much. The last question. Ewood. Oh, we can only take one more. I've been flagged many times.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Ngozi Ike. So for the past 4 or 5 years, myself I've been trying to go to the hospital to meet the doctor to see him for that I have a health issue. And if I write to the doctor will be like, no, are you sure you have this health issue? Are you sure? I said, yes, I have this health issue. I need your help. It's for the 5 years now. I've been writing these things, we'll write and write. And the person will be like, no, that you don't have these issues. I will tell them, okay, let me run tests on this thing. Let me run tests and go for these things, but they will still not answer me. Then later I went to went for scan. It's in my stomach, and I checked. I had to go myself to go and do a scan to myself. I went to another hospital, another state entirely. Yobe said, and they checked me there. They were like, "Yes, you have this issue in your health. You have this." But here in Lagos, when I went to the hospital, they don't want to believe. They said, "No, you are not sure of what you have." So I don't know why. I don't know. I don't know what's happening in our health in our health sector about with deaf persons. They don't always take our needs in prioritized. They always turn us down each time we go to complain to the hospital. And also, they don't believe deaf persons. That's just generally. They don't believe deaf persons. So if you can advocate for us to be able to access medical health care easily, to make us be able to participate, to get our health, because most of us go to buy drugs across because of this issue of accessibility. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, everyone. And I think that this has been a great answer around policy, around government, and to be honest, the biggest change always happens at the policy level. Like she was trying to interject and say that there is a National Commission for Persons with Disabilities, right? But inclusion is a journey. Inclusion is a journey. We are not yet, we have just started to scratch the surface, right? And that is why conversations like this are important. Earlier in the year, we brought out the State of Disability Inclusion Report for 2024, which is to analyze where we are as a nation. And one of the key areas that is lacking in terms of inclusion is the health sector. And in that room that day, there were all the relevant ministries held in Abuja, the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Information, and everyone coming together. And of course, a report was shared with all of the relevant ministries. But we also understand that policy is both a governance issue and a political issue, right? And that is why the effort of the private sector sometimes is where we can go to have things happen, right? When you see organizations like ADI, like Dama Place Learning, like IGEA, that are creating the services and not waiting for the government. What the government does is to enable people like them to be able to provide the service. And when they when they are enabled, then organizations like them can then ensure that those services, of course, it has to be in partnership with the government, and that is why this conversation is important. But from all the services that they're providing, I know that ADI does for example, there's a counseling booth outside, where you can go there, see professional counselors, talk to them on certain issues, even if this is not the end of the conversation, but it can be a start to something, right? There is Lafiami here that is collecting all the big HMOs and helping you create it into smaller bits, right? From IGEA, and in such a way that it becomes accessible. But my answer at the end of the day, while we have raised all of this issue, we have to keep advocating, we have to keep speaking out, we have to keep showing up and demanding that things has to be done right. If we keep quiet, if we do not speak up, right? For example, this session is recorded. Apart from here, it's going to be on live. And when all of this is done, a report is also going to be generated from everything that has been said. The Commissioner for Youth is currently here. And one of the things he is going back, to his office with is all the recommendations that we have all, spoken about here. So I think that while there's a lot to be done, it's important. I mean, it's a good thing that we're here. And then every one of us, your local government chairman, now you know what they need to do. Now you know what is relevant, what is important. Now your local government chairman, the next time you see your governor, you now know the things to ask for, right? And I think that is why this conversation is important. So I will give it back to Tosin.
Thank you so much. I mean, there's almost nothing more to say. A lot has been said, and it's progress from here. I feel like, I don't know if there are any thoughts. Do you have anything to add based on the reactions?
It's been a very engaging session, and sorry about that we were really fast. We didn't know that we were fast. Actually, I didn't know I was fast. Okay, so I think from what Mr. Owonikoko has said, we all have a part to play. We will not just, stop at talking, because if we are just talking and we are not taking actionable steps, then we are not making any progress. So we would leave here with the thought that every one of us will continue to use our social media handles to, to create the awareness and continue the advocacy, so that who needs to hear what has to, and then we take it up from there. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I think for me, right, it's been a mixed feeling for me here since, and personally, I think I would do more with CSR, right? So, when we have partners come to say we want to customize this kind of plan, what jobs do you head first of all is business and MLR. What are they looking at? So how much are they paying? How much profit are we making? But I mean, from what I've seen here today, I think when I even have partners coming like this, I will be thinking more from the CSR approach to say, yes, this is what we're even doing to give back, not necessarily because we want to make profit. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, it's been a lot of learning experience for me, particularly the kind of job I do. I usually want to get experiential knowledge of the people going through them. And I like what this our gentleman said here. Actually, me as an individual, I prefer us preventing things from happening, promoting mental well-being, than doing intervention. The work I do, just like doctor, our major work is we are interventionists. But it's better we avoid the thing happening than we now intervene, because at the point of intervention, pain has happened, losses has happened, and it's even more expensive. So with what he have said, I think one thing I would say is that, just like Olalekan just mentioned, see, people always act what they know. They practice their conviction. And I think it starts from conversation. People need to be more aware. There's a lot of awareness that has been brought to some of us here, particularly me, so that has inspired me. And it's going to change a lot of things, content, material, because we're going to integrate it into our content. So I think that's why I said, awareness is a big thing. Light is a big thing. Illumination is a big thing. Identification is a big thing. Recognizing, identifying what the issues are, what people are experiencing is a big thing. Because it can influence it can influence us. It can help us to evolve. because things are really changing, things are evolving, and everybody need to act. And I think we will act from what we are convinced of. So I think it's been a very good learning experience, and it's quite very inspiring. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. It's been such a wonderful panel. Thank you for sitting through. Thank you for engaging. I want you to please leave this room and share some of your lessons, even on your social media platform, or even some of the things that you want to see changed. Let's use our platforms, because now it's your phone can reach Asia, just with a post. You can also drive this conversation. So whilst we challenge government, let's start to also create awareness and also be kinder to persons with disabilities and people suffering mental health issues, especially because sometimes it's not on the face. So let's be kind. And thank you so much, Lafiami. On behalf of Lafiami, I'm thanking myself for us hosting this panel, because this was good conversation. Good conversation. Thank you so much. Let's take pictures, please. Sitting or standing? Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Kingsley. Thank you, Mrs. Olubumi. Thank you, Mr. Shegu. Amazing work you're already doing. Let's keep it going. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, we can put that down. Just a quick announcement. We can just turn our chairs to join the main session, which is a closing session. And please note that there is a counseling room in the exhibition stand. You can go there. There are counselors, professional counselors. You can meet them. There is a Jobberman counseling stand for career counseling and guidance. You can meet them and get all the information that you need. Thank you. Sorry, we need to take another picture. Another one. All right, thank you very much.